I funded every holiday, then bought a mansion and banned my family forever. I'd always been the family punchline. My dad used to laugh after I covered the cost of every single holiday for years. One day, I finally snapped and told him, then stay out of my life. But before I dive into all that, let me say this, I've noticed the channel's been slowing down a bit lately. If you're here and you like these stories, hitting that subscribe button is the easiest way to show support. It's fast, it's free, and it really helps keep this community growing strong. After I went ahead and bought a mansion, didn't tell a soul, and refused to let them inside, that's when they finally got the message. But the truth is, they never really took me seriously. Not back when I scraped together spare change and allowance money to get birthday gifts for my siblings. Not when I stayed up late studying while they called me nerd or robot like it was some kind of joke. Not even the day I walked across that graduation stage as valedictorian. I remember looking into the crowd and catching my dad glancing down at his watch. My whole life, I'd felt like a background character in their little family sitcom, always the setup, never the star. Just the punchline. That Thanksgiving summed it all up. I passed the bowl of mashed potatoes I paid for, in a house I rented just so we could all be together, and my dad laughed. Right in the middle of the meal, like it was hilarious. Everyone else laughed, too. My sister, tipsy off her third glass of wine, put a hand over her mouth and said, "Come on, Dad," but she was grinning the whole time. My mom didn't say a word, just looked away, like she always did when he took a jab at me, like it was easier to pretend it didn't happen. I don't really remember much about the meal after that. Everything felt distant, like I was floating above the room, just watching from the outside. And the thing is, I'd poured over 10 grand into that trip. Covered flights, paid for the Airbnb, stocked the place with groceries, even gave my brother some money so he could take time off work. But somehow, I was still the joke. Later that night, I sat alone in the rental kitchen, staring at my phone screen for hours. Not a single thank you. Not a text. Just one meme from my cousin about overachievers needing a hug. That was it. That same night, I scheduled a meeting with a realtor. Because here's the thing, I'd done pretty damn well for myself, quietly, on my own terms. Built an app when I was 23, kept it lean, grew a user base nobody expected. About a year ago, a mid-sized tech company bought me out. Enough money to retire if I wanted. But I didn't stop. I kept going. Invested, built, grew. And the whole time, I kept helping my family, behind the scenes, without ever making a fuss. Bought my sister a car when hers gave out. Covered the down payment for my parents' lake house. Paid my brother's tuition when he decided to go back to school. They never said thank you. Not really. Just kind of acted like it was expected. Like, of course he'll cover it. He's the dependable one. The joke. I wasn't the charming one. Wasn't the athlete. Wasn't the funny sibling either. I was the quiet one who made things happen in the background. So I went and bought myself a mansion. Didn't say a word. Paid cash. 5 bedrooms, infinity pool, tucked away behind a gate, perched on a cliff that dropped straight into the ocean. It felt like the edge of the world started where my backyard ended. I didn't tell anyone because, honestly, I didn't feel like I knew them anymore. Then my dad sent a text asking if I could pitch in for some plumbing work at the lake house. I left it on read. My sister posted an old photo of us with the caption, "Family's everything," and tagged me. Didn't even like it. When Christmas rolled around and I stayed silent, that's when the texts started flooding in. "Where are you? You okay? You coming?" I didn't answer. Not even when my mom left a voicemail. She started with, "We're just worried," and ended with, "You know your father didn't mean it. But he always meant it." I stayed in my new place. Decorated it exactly how I wanted, quiet, tasteful, no flashy logos or gold-plated nonsense. Just smooth leather, dark oak, glass walls, and peace. On Christmas Eve, I sat out back with a glass of scotch and watched the Pacific crash into the cliffs below. I was alone, but for the first time, I didn't feel lonely. They didn't find out until sometime in January. I'm still not sure how, maybe someone saw a Zillow listing or a blog post. Could have been my ex, she always had a flair for spilling secrets in the most dramatic way possible. Then the messages started rolling in. "You moved. Wait, you bought that place? Dude, we have to visit." And finally, the call. My dad. Voice full of fake hurt and playful drama. "Hey, big shot. Hiding mansions from your old man, huh? Thought we were family." I stared at the phone and I swear I felt something cold settle in my chest. I thought about all the times he'd called me weird. Every time he threw out one of those nicknames Rainman, Mr. Data, like it was some kind of harmless joke. Every dinner I picked up the check. Every moment he reminded me that I should be grateful just to have a family at all. I pressed answer. "You've always been the family joke, remember?" I said. There was a pause on the line. Then his voice, casual like always, "Come on. That was just us having a little fun." "No," I said. "Then stay out of my life." "What?" he replied, like he didn't hear me right. "You heard me," I said. "No more texts. No more holidays. No more group chats where I'm the only one paying the bill. And definitely no more pretending your jokes didn't leave scars." I told him the truth. I bought that mansion so I could finally live a life where I wasn't constantly begging him for a shred of respect. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You're overreacting." No, I told him. "I'm reacting. For once." And I hung up. That same weekend, my sister showed up. Drove 3 hours and parked outside the gate. She buzzed in through the intercom, smiling into the camera like she hadn't completely ghosted me half a year earlier, right after I said no to co-signing her second mortgage. "Hey," she said, acting casual. "Thought I'd stop by. Got time to chat?" I didn't reply. A few minutes later, she buzzed again. This time she said she just wanted to talk. That we were family. That I was overreacting. I watched her through the security app on my phone. At first she looked confused. Then irritated. Then flat out angry. "You think you're better than us now?" she yelled at the gate. I muted the feed. The next week, I sent out one final message. A group text. "I've spent my whole life trying to earn love that should have been given freely. I'm done. You don't get to mock me and expect me to bankroll the punchline. I'm building a new life, one where I don't need to apologize for simply existing. Don't contact me unless it's to sincerely apologize. And I don't mean explanations, justifications, or gaslighting. I mean real, honest remorse." My phone stayed silent for 3 full days. Then, late Thursday night, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in years, my cousin Logan. "Hey man, been thinking about you. Just wanted to say I always looked up to you, even if no one else ever said it. What your dad said at Thanksgiving was seriously messed up." I didn't know what to make of it at first. Logan was the one person growing up who never laughed at me. He didn't step in to defend me either, but at least he never joined in. He just kind of existed on the edge, like most people in our family. Watching. Quiet. Complicit through silence. But this message, it felt different. No guilt trips. No mention of the mansion. No surprise visit requests. Just something human. "Thanks," I replied. "That means more than you probably realize." And then I let it go. Because I was done chasing scraps of kindness, hoping they'd fill a hole that went way too deep. One thoughtful message from a cousin didn't erase a lifetime of being pushed aside. A month passed. And for the first time in my adult life, I woke up without a knot in my stomach. My mornings were slow. Quiet. Sacred. I worked when I felt like it. Read for hours. Swam in the deep blue pool that seemed to kiss the edge of the cliff behind my house. I started therapy. Picked up woodworking. Built my own desk with these hands that people used to say were only good for typing. Peace slowly became a habit. Then one day, knock, knock. The gate buzzer. But not just the buzzer. An actual knock on the door. It was my brother, Derek. Standing just beyond the camera's reach. He'd parked down the hill and hiked the private road up to the house. No call, no text. Just showed up like we were still kids and I still owed him a ride to school. I peeked through the blinds. He was holding something, a box, from the way he shifted it in his arms. Looked nervous. Thinner than I remembered. He looked tired. But not apologetic. Never that. I didn't open the door. I just watched as he gently set the box down and walked away. Later, I brought it inside and opened it. Inside were old photos. Us as kids. Me at my 5th grade science fair. Him beside me, laughing, with a fake mustache drawn on in black Sharpie. Tucked in with the photos was a note, scribbled on the back of a flyer from his job. "I don't remember when or why we started treating you like the weird one. Maybe because it was easy. You never fought back. You just kept giving. I'm not good at apologies, but I see it now. You were never the joke. You were the only one who ever showed up for all of us." I didn't cry. I wish I could say I did, that it hit me like a wave and I broke down right there on the hardwood floor. But the truth is, I just stood there, read it over and over until the words started to blur. Because by then, it was already too late. One box of old memories doesn't erase decades of being made to feel small. So I tossed it all into the fire pit out back, the one overlooking the sea. Watched as every photo curled up and turned black. I let go of that kid in those pictures, the boy who kept showing up, hoping one day it'd be enough. He'd done his time. But real revenge, the kind that lives deep in your bones, doesn't come from fire or shouting. It comes quietly. It comes from shutting the door, reclaiming your space, and never asking for applause. So I did the last thing they ever expected. I threw a party. Not for them. For me. I invited the people who truly saw me. Folks who'd been there from the beginning, mentors, close friends, colleagues who stayed up with me on Slack at 2 a.m. during the messiest nights of the startup grind. People who never needed a shared last name to recognize my worth. I brought in a private chef. Strung lights through the trees. Hired a jazz trio that made the ocean breeze feel expensive. It was the kind of night that makes you remember you built something real. And then I posted one photo. Just one. Me, right in the middle, laughing. Not politely. Not nervously. But fully. Surrounded by people who never tried to shrink me. No caption. No hashtags. Just the image. It took 13 minutes for my sister to text. "How nice of you to finally include us." I didn't respond. The next day, my dad sent a message. So you're really cutting us out, huh? After everything? Yes. He followed up with a long, rambling paragraph about how he worked hard, how I owed him everything, how I wouldn't be where I was if he hadn't put a roof over my head growing up. Then he called me selfish, cold, arrogant. I replied with one sentence. You don't get to weaponize your neglect just because I've walked off the battlefield. That was the last thing I ever said to him. Months went by. The seasons shifted, and the silence stayed. It became something sacred. One afternoon, I drove past the old neighborhood, just on a whim. I saw my parents out in front of their house. They were arguing. My mom glanced up and caught a glimpse of me through the windshield. Her eyes met mine. She lifted her hand, just barely. Not quite a wave. More like muscle memory tangled up with regret. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. Because revenge isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a locked gate. A seat left empty at Christmas. A version of yourself they'll never be allowed to meet. And then I met someone. At an art gallery of all places. She had this quiet kind of confidence, the kind that didn't need to prove anything to anyone. We got to talking about silence, reinvention, and how ridiculous it feels to start over in your 30s. For the first time, I told my story without watering it down for anyone else's comfort. She didn't flinch. She just nodded and said, "Sounds like you finally became your own home." And I had. Not the mansion. Not the money. Me. The version of me who chose peace over permission. Distance over performance. Self-respect over blood ties. So no, I didn't let them in. Not because I was bitter. Because I was free. And in that freedom, I finally understood. The best revenge is building a life they'll never be welcome in.